behavior. Yeah, well, be on whatever behavior you're on, you know, it's like, just. So, welcome. As part of Power, I've been involved with Live Free, building communities free from violence and incarceration. There are so many ways that this needs to be accomplished. This year, we're in the midst of a campaign to end the cash bail system in Philadelphia. A system that, as you will learn if you don't already know about it, is unjust and that leads to incarceration based on poverty. Every year, our Chavurah takes this time on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, to focus on one way that we can make a difference in the world, on one issue that calls us to act. This year, that issue is cash bail, and we dedicate this service to ending the unjust cash bail system in our city. We've based this service on the words of Isaiah, words chanted on Yom Kippur in synagogues around the country, calling for people to act justly and not simply to fast on this Day of Atonement. As we move through our service, I'll introduce you to all of the players, to everyone who is here, to everyone who took part in the planning, to everyone who knows about cash bail. We begin with Isaiah. V'amar solu sol. V'amar solu solu panu darech harimu michshol miderech ami ki choamar Ram v'nisa shochen ad v'kadosh shemo Marom v'kadosh eshkon v'yetaka u'shafal ruach lahachayot ruach shafalim ulahachayot levni dakaim.
Open up, clear a path. Clear away all obstacles from the path of my people. For so says the one who high aloft forever dwells, whose name is holy. I dwell on high in holiness, and therefore with the lowly and humiliated, to breathe new breath into the humble, to give new heart to the brokenhearted.
So I said I would introduce everyone, and I skipped Gail Lax, who I need to introduce, who just read the Isaiah in English and who has been a part of the Live Free group and working to end cash bail. Gail was in services all day at Peneor and zipped over here to be a part of ours today. We start by my asking Reverend Nick to come up and lead us in song. Reverend Nicholas O'Rourke, a Power Philadelphia community organizer who focuses on dismantling the crippling effects of mass incarceration and police brutality of people of color and combating Islamophobia in Philadelphia. Reverend Nick is the Assistant Pastor of Worship and Liturgical Arts at the Living Water United Church of Christ in Oxford Circle. So first, a song.
Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees, pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia so sweet and fresh, then the smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to soak, for the sun to rot, for the tree to drop. Here is a strange and bitter crop.
I'd like to welcome up Sheila Oliver. Sheila's a member of St. Vincent de Paul Church in Germantown and has been a leader in the Live Free group working to end cash bail.
Well, as you can already see, a lot of this presentation is very emotional, but I'm going to do the totally non-emotional part of this presentation about why cash bail needs to go. But I'll start with some highlights about Philadelphia. Philadelphia has the highest rate of poverty of any U.S. city and the highest rate of people in deep poverty. Philadelphia also has the highest per capita incarceration rate of the 10 largest cities in the nation. In May 2017, which was 4 months ago, there were 6,600 detainees in Philadelphia prisons, and 1/4 of them were there because they could not pay cash bail. So what is cash bail? Bail is the legal process that judges use to limit the freedom of people charged with crimes, short of sending them to jail. The principle behind bail is that people are entitled to personal freedom if they've been charged with, but not yet convicted of, a crime. The purposes of bail are to ensure that the person appears in court and that no further crimes are committed before trial. A judge assesses one person charged with a crime and says, "I want you in jail. I don't think you'll come back to court, and I think you're a threat to the public." A judge assesses another person charged with a crime and says, "I'm comfortable with you not going to jail as long as you meet the conditions that I am going to set," and those conditions are bail. The judge can order non-cash bail, conditions which limit the defendant's freedom but require no money. Examples are electronic ankle bracelets and drug treatment programs. If you don't adhere to the conditions that the judge sets for you, you do go to jail. Or the judge can order cash bail. The judge sets an amount of money which defendants must deposit with the court. They forfeit the money and go to jail if they don't come to court or if they commit another crime. If you have the cash for bail, you are free to go home, to work, to care for your family, to live your life, and to prepare your defense. If you do not have the cash for bail, you go to jail. The city of Philadelphia has been working hard in recent years to create non-cash bail conditions to keep people charged with non-violent crimes out of jail, ankle bracelets, drug treatment programs, and more. Other cities, Washington, D.C. is the best example, and other states, like our neighbor, New Jersey, have eliminated cash bail entirely for all criminal charges. But in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, if a judge believes that the best limit on a defendant's freedom is cash bail, then people with money go home and the poor go to jail. And I'll say one last thing. Cash bail may not be inherently racist, but in our criminal justice system, which has been endlessly documented to be racist from arrest to the end of your life, and in a city where poverty defines the world of so many young black men, cash bail is about race, and it needs to go.
Thank you. I'd also like to invite up Laura Ford, who is also a member of St. Vincent de Paul Church and who has served as a chaplain in Philadelphia Women's Prison. She'll share with us her experience.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. I was grateful when Sheila invited me to come tonight because oftentimes the women who are incarcerated are left out of the conversation. So I'm here to bring them in. 5 to 7 minutes. I could talk a lot longer, but I made sure it's limited. I first went into the women's prison back in 1997. I was hired by Catholic Social Services to provide some kind of service to the women who were in there. The Northeast Family Service Center is only 5 minutes from the prison system, and the administrator felt that the women there should have some services. So when I first went in, the chaplain the priest chaplain there brought me in and brought me up to the housing unit where the women were housed, and had me introduce me to some of them. They were standing around talking, and I immediately felt at home. Like at first I wasn't so sure I was going to want to be in the prison, but immediately I was. And I talked to the women and told them that we were thinking about maybe doing something like starting a parenting class. And they told me that there was already a parenting class, but did I know that at any given time there were about 25 pregnant women in the prison who had no classes at all. They had prenatal care but no education. So I went back and I told the administrator that, and Catholic Social Services has a lot of resources for women and children, and so I put together a class, 10-week sessions of prenatal education, what's happening to your body, what's happening to the baby's body, that kind of thing, and provided resources. Most of the women in the class were mothers, had many children before, some, and none of them had ever experienced anything like this. One of the resources we had were these little plastic fetuses. They were 12-week fetuses that were fully formed. And when we hit that mark, when we were talking about that, I brought them in. And the women were like amazed to see this. But what happened was even more amazing. What happened was after that week, the women were bringing these little babies in with them to the class. They had made little beds for them out of tissue boxes and blankets out of tissues and painted hair on them and carried them around. And then other women who weren't in the class would stop me in the hallway and say, are you the lady with the babies? Could I have one of those babies? So in many ways, the women were children themselves, and it was a privilege to be with them. During that time, the women, of course, wanted to speak to me after class. They wanted to know more about what I did and wanted to tell me their stories, really. And talk to me about their other children. So the chaplain there, the women's chaplain, allowed me to use her office. And one of the things I had the privilege to do was to be there when they returned from the hospital, of course, without their babies. When a woman who is incarcerated has a baby, they only have 24 hours to be with the baby before the baby gets then taken either home by a parent or a relative or a friend or DHS, which was always the most feared thing. So when they came back, you can imagine there was a lot of grief. I can remember one of the first stories was there was a woman, her name was Doreen, and she came to see me, and she said to me, she presented me with this little undershirt from the baby. She said, "Miss Laura, I took this out of the hospital. I know it was probably wrong, but I wanted it with me because it smells like the baby, and I can smell him when I have it." And then others, of course, were suffering with their breast milk coming in, and they were in pain. One woman who was so bereft, the correctional officers let me spend some time in her cell with her. So that was a really privileged time and incredibly heartbreaking, as you can imagine. Most of these women have nonviolent offenses, drug possession, drug sales, maybe some of them. Most of them were there because they couldn't pay bail as well, since that's the topic that we were talking about. One woman that, just I'll tell you a brief story about, she was incarcerated because she had lived in Puerto Rico. She had not lived there for a long time with a man who sold drugs, and they had a warrant out for her arrest because Puerto Rico wanted to extradite her back there. Now, everybody said this was probably never going to happen, but it didn't matter. She was in for 90 days. And during that time, her 3 children were taken by DHS, and it was just incredibly hard. So one day I got into the office and I had a message. She was pregnant, very pregnant, that she had called 6:30 in the morning. It was before cell phones. She was at Episcopal Hospital. She was released. When you get released from the county jail, it could be 11 o'clock at night, it could be 1 o'clock in the morning. You get 1 token and the clothes you came in with. And she had somehow lost this token inside the jail, so she walked from State Road in Northeast Philly to Kensington, where her home was, tried to get in there. That was all boarded up. And then she just had her summer clothes on. This was like almost winter, and the shoes that they gave you in the jail. And she walked into Episcopal Hospital. She was dehydrated. They treated her for dehydration. But then she had to sit there till 6:30 in the morning. She called me and said, can you come and get me? So I went and got her some food, and brought her back to our building and let her sleep on the couch until I tried to figure out where I could bring her till she could get a place. So at that time there was a Catholic worker house here in Germantown, and they kept her for a few days, for a few weeks, I should say, till she could get another place to go. I mean, I could tell you a million stories, but you kind of get the picture, I'm sure. And I wish I could tell you like that. I was there from 1997 to 2012. I wish I could tell you that things are better now, but they're not. The population, women are the fastest growing segment of the prison population. Since 1980, the number has skyrocketed by over 700%. The United States has 5% of the world's women, but 1/3 of incarcerated women. And the vast majority are black and brown. In Philadelphia, there are currently about 700 women in the Riverside Correctional Facility. There were about 500 when I left. Senators Cory Booker and Elizabeth Warren have introduced the Dignity for Incarceration Women Act, and that addresses many of the injustices that incarcerated women suffer that I can't go into right now, but I commend you to look that up and read some more about the incarcerated women. Thank you.
Halozeh Somev Charehu Pateach Chartzupot Resha Hater Agudot Motah Vishalach Ritzutzim Chofshim V'chol Motah Tinateku Halo Faros L'Ra'ev Lachamecha Va'aniyim Merudim Tavi Vayit Ki Tire Arom V'chisito Umi B'saracha Lo Titalam.
Unlock the handcuffs put on by wicked power. Untie the ropes of the yoke. Let the oppressed go free and break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry. Bring the poor, the outcasts to your home. When you see them naked, clothe them. They are your flesh and blood. Don't hide yourself from them.
Thank you. Doing another part of the song. I'd like to ask Reverend Nick to come up for the second verse.
It is about race, and it needs to stop. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on marching, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on marching, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, oh, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on marching, marching up to freedom land.
I'd like to invite Terrence William to come up and share for us his story about the cash bail system.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Terrence Williams. I'm currently 22. At the age of 17, I was locked up and charged as an adult. I currently work with the Youth Arts Self-Empowerment Project. We're a nonprofit organization that's trying to stop juveniles from being locked up and charged as adults. I was locked up and charged as an adult in 2013, and my bail was set for $250,000. Juveniles in the adult system have a far more higher bail than adults in the Philadelphia prison system. I was set for $250,000 bail. I was held for 4 months, and on my third month, it was reduced to $50,000, and 10% would be $5,000, which still was unaffordable for me at the time. I turned 18 while I was incarcerated, and when you 18, you get switched to the adult side of the jail, and it's housed with adults, where I was given a plea bargain. My plea bargain was to go back to the juvenile system for 18 months and have served 5 years adult probation, which I'm at the end of my loop, serving right now. Yeah, but just kids, and that's if you locked up in charge of adult and you a kid, the chances of your bail getting paid is like 2%. I think the whole 4 months I've seen somebody in there, I've seen somebody get bailed out once. So kids are currently, it's about 45 young men currently locked up in charge as adults, and one young lady who's currently locked up in charge as adults with bails that is higher than adults' bails. The young lady that's locked up in charge of adults, we was working together with the mama bailout to try to bail her out right now, because we've been bailing out ladies since May, and she's like the only juvenile that's locked up in charge of adult that's a female. So we working together with her attorney to try to bail her out. But yeah, I was 17 at the time. 4 months before my 2 months. It was March of 2013. It was 2 months before my prom, 3 months before my graduation. I wasn't able to attend none of that. There's still stuff I see people going prom today, and I'd be like, I wish I could go on my prom at the time. But if I had a bail that I could have paid, I could have made it home in time to see the outcome of my case, which was June 28th, which was behind graduation and prom. I could have been home to graduate and prom, graduate and go on my prom. I had 2 co-defendants who ain't had nothing to do with my case. That was like, one was walking down the street, one was my friend who came to my preliminary hearing, and he was arrested because the person that I robbed lied and said he was there. There was a guy walking down the street. We all was 12th graders with 2 months going into our 2 months left for our 12th grade year. So what I did impacted 2 people who had nothing to do with what I did, but we all had bails that was far too high for us to pay, and if we had the money to pay it, we would have been able to. Even though we was fighting something legal, we still would have been able to attend our prom and our graduation. And me and my friend that got locked up, we was fortunate that our teachers was nice, and they gave us our diploma. So I didn't miss out on the diploma, but I did miss out on like the milestones of my high school year, which is the end, like class trips and all that. So I work right now in a coalition called the No 215 Jail Coalition. We work right now to end cash bail in Philadelphia. We traveled to D.C. to see the model, because they didn't have a bail system since 1982. So we traveled to D.C. to see their model, to try to sort of get some advice on how we can work together with people who hold the power to end cash bail in Philadelphia to end it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Terrence. It means a lot that you came all the way up and were ready to stand here and talk in front of a group of people you don't know, in front of a group of white people you don't know. And we just really appreciate it. Thank you for being here and for sharing your story. You should have been at that prom, and you should have been at that graduation. There is no question about it, and this system has to end so that other people can get to their proms and their graduations. And, you know, yeah, it's true. It is all about race. You are tall. I want to share my experience with the prison system as a contrast, so you just get what this was. Right? I chose to do civil disobedience at Standing Rock last year, and went to North Dakota, and was willingly picked up after saying, you know, we won't leave the State House. And I said to the police officer who was putting handcuffs on, you know, my shoulders aren't so great. Could you really be gentle when you put them on and not pull too hard? And he said to me, oh, of course. And very gently moved my arms back. I'll bet that didn't happen to you. I'll bet that doesn't happen to anybody of color or anybody in poverty. It happens to middle-class white women who are standing there. And I couldn't get my wedding ring off because it was, tight, and I said to the woman who was making me give her all of my stuff, I can't seem to get my wedding ring off. And she said, oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. And then I wore a talit. We wore prayer shawls. And I said, the officer said to me, well, I want to be respectful of your prayer shawl. I want to make sure I fold it right. And she folded it perfectly so that it was treated with absolute respect. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen unless you're white and middle class. And then I was told that my bail would be $750, and it was already late at night. There were 3 of us who were Jewish, me and 2 rabbinical students, and we wanted to get out on bail if we could. And Jewish Voice for Peace had a representative in North Dakota and took my ATM card and took whatever ATM cards they could find and got easily $750 each for the 3 of us. We knew they would, right? We knew they would. We were okay to choose to be in jail because we knew they would. And they arrived at 3 in the morning, and they paid our bail and drove us the 2 hours back to the bus that we needed to catch in order to get a plane to come home. I was imprisoned for a grand total of 12 hours. And it was fine. I'd like to ask Reverend Nick to come up and share his thoughts.
As has been laid out, Power is an organization in this city that is committed, as you all probably know, to racial and economic justice. Racial and economic justice, an intersection that we seem to find in much of the work that we do. And it's no different even now with the Live Free campaign. I am Reverend Nicholas O'Rourke. I am the community organizer for the West Philadelphia Center City clusters, as well as the Live Free campaign, which is committed to addressing police accountability, or expanding police accountability and addressing mass incarceration in our city. We have decided to take up a campaign in conjunction with the larger citywide movement, which our brother here is a part of, the No 215 Jail Coalition, to end the cash bail system in the city of Philadelphia by this time next year. It is aggressive.
We can do it.
It is a tall order. There are a lot of obstacles that stand in our way, and yet it needs to end, and we should not let anybody turn us around from this goal. Over the next several months, we intend and we seek out your help to acquire as much information as we can, do as much research as we can, to educate ourselves on the cash bail system in the city of Philadelphia. We have to know the problem in order to fix it. And so we're looking for opportunities to come into congregations. If you know folks like our brother here who have had run-ins with the cash bail system, have run-ins with the criminal justice system, have been locked up, the statistics say that some 7,500 folks are locked up in jails and prisons in the city of Philadelphia. We're looking at a city that, as Sheila lifted up earlier, is probably arguably the poorest big city in the country. It's the 4th in incarceration in the U.S. we've made it in such a way we are now criminalizing poverty, where because people get locked up and they can't make bail, some 40% can't make $100. Something that was meant to put some limitations to make sure that you come back for a trial date, because if you're charged, it doesn't mean you're guilty, it just means you're charged, has now resulted in people not being able to experience milestone moments in their life because they are black, because they are brown, because they are poor, because they are a woman. So we're looking for folks to join us as we research. We're looking for folks as we design the type of actions that we need to take on this, to be a part, to use your faith voice, your moral voice, to put your body, put yourself on the line, to help us change the face of this city. And hopefully we can be a light for the rest of this country. If there are questions that you will have after this service, I know that all of you will be still fasting on for the rest of the evening, but there is information that will be given where you can reach out to us, to contact any one of us that we might be able to pull you into the fold. That way you can get more details about next steps. Thank you very much.
Uvanu mimecha charvot olam mosde dor vador tikomem v'kora lecha goder peret mishovev netivot lashavet.
And you shall lay foundations for the coming generation. You shall be called those who mend torn places. You shall be called those who build lanes to live in.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, questions, just thoughts, reactions, anything that any of you would like to say, any of your experiences you'd like to share. We have just a few minutes for anyone who wants to open up or say something to add to this conversation. So the question, you're going to answer, Nick? The question is, you have to come up here because we're being live streamed. We want people to hear your answer. The question is, what will it take to accomplish the goal?
Well, there's a lot that we're still trying to figure out, but the first thing that it's going to take is raising awareness. That's the first step that needs to happen. We're so grateful for Rabbi Linda and Sister Sheila and all those, and Sister Laura as well, who all been part of putting this Martyrology service together to start here. But there are so many folks that allow this system to go on simply because we don't either care or we're so used to it. It's such the norm that we don't think about the implications that it has on the least, the lost, the left out, people of color in this city. We are looking at a system that literally criminalizes poverty, and we allow it to go because that's what we've always known. If the goal of cash bail, if the goal of the bail system, period, is to just put limitations on you so that you can come back to trial because you're presumed innocent until they found you guilty, then why are we using money as a reason to judge whether or not you're innocent or not? So the idea is that we need to spread this message, to get the information out, come to our meetings, allow yourself to be educated about what this system is, and think with us together about how we can design a path towards actually ending it. So allow yourself to be educated. Share this information with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Identify persons in the community who have run into the criminal justice system and do have stories like our brother here. Inform yourself, and then come put your hands to the plow.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can you tell us the name of the coalition that's working on this?
Repeat the question.
Right. So the question was, can you tell us the name of the coalition that's working on this? So Power, as Live Free's campaign, is a part of the coalition called the No 215 Jail Coalition. It is a coalition that is a prison abolition coalition, but recognizes that prior to whatever your sentiments are about that, the idea of cash bail is one that actually contributes to the over-incarceration of people of color in this city, and really in the country and in the world. So it's the No 215 Jail Coalition.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is it the same in the counties, surrounding counties, Delaware County, Montgomery County, North,
The short answer is yes.
We
Yes.
had to repeat the question.
Is it the same in the surrounding counties? The short answer is yes. What we are finding, of course, we said this. It's not a racist system, but race is definitely in the mix here. But you're going to find the struggles that comes with this situation in your more urban context. So you're looking at Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and so we're obviously starting here in the city.
Thank you.
Are there still put charges on kids? I know a lot of kids used to get arrested for misdemeanors, and then they would have court costs added to the whatever. And so it became this whole cycle of not ever being able to catch up. So are court costs a part of this?
That's something. Sorry.
So just repeat the questions.
I think the question was, are court costs a part of this? And as far as I know, I think the answer is yes. I believe the answer is yes to the question. Answer to that, yes.
Who are the decision makers that end cash bail? Where are the pressure points? Is it the city council, the voters, or what's the bottom?
So we found out that city council hasn't.
Repeat the
I'm
questions,
sorry.
please.
Who are the? Please forgive me. I'm sorry. The question was, who are the decision makers on this process? Again, all of these questions that you're asking are part of of us gathering information now to figure all that out. But what we have found at this point is that city council is a major influencer on this. But really, what we're finding is that the decision is going to have to be made, I believe, in Harrisburg. And so we're looking at a major city issue that's going to have to go through the center of the state. So the more, the merrier. Sheila, do you want to take this one?
I just want to add to that there is a grant to the City of Philadelphia to reduce incarceration from the MacArthur Foundation. And one of their number one goals is to end cash bail. And that is about the City of Philadelphia. And are there ways to end cash bail in Philadelphia without changing it in the state is a question. And a number of people, including the Office of the Public Defender, believes that, yes, we could do it just on a citywide basis. That's a question we're researching. Another big player in all of this is the court system, the magistrates' court and the court of common pleas. And if the judges are for it, that is a huge step in the right direction. And so the city council, the mayor, the city council, and the courts are the people we need to put pressure on to pay attention and let them figure out how to do it. If somebody wants to do it, it can be done, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I have two questions. The first is that right now there's a lot of talk about prison reform, and there's a lot of different groups. How does your group fit into that? And are you looking at more topics than just the elimination of bail for nonviolent crimes?
Right. So the question was, how does, that there are so many different groups working on prison reform, and how does this group fit into that? And in addition, why just eliminating cash bail? Are we working on something larger, or is this the issue?
Thank you for that question. We called the No 25 Jail Coalition because fall of 2015, City Council was trying to push to buy land to build a new jail, and all the groups in that coalition, we went down to City Council and we gave our voice and we spoke, and they didn't push the money to buy the new land next to CFCF to buy new land to build a new jail, and that's when we couldn't stop there, so we said, what's next on our topic? And it came to end cash bail due to us reforming the prison population in Philadelphia. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, one at a time.
Another question was, like, as an individual, besides showing up at this meeting and learning more about the problem, what can I do?
Okay.
What can my church do?
What can a church do? What can an individual do?
Thank you for that question. It's going to be right along the lines of education. What would be great is if our churches, our synagogues, our masjids took the time to do the internal searching out about persons who have suffered as a result of this system. Can we identify, we live in community, but a lot of times we operate as if we're in isolation. If we are coming into these churches, these masjids, these synagogues, how many folk, do we have conversations with folks? You could be sitting next to somebody in the middle of worship that has experienced this and would never know. And so it would be helpful for all of us, collectively and individually, to educate ourselves by getting to know the person next to us and finding out if they have a story that they would be willing to share so that we can be better informed about the actual personal impact that this system has on people's lives.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, one last. Yes. So the question is about community service and how does that fit into the mix? What is it that one has to do? Can that count instead of bail? Does it count in addition? How does that work now? And how could it work? And
I don't know about community service, but I do know that all the non-cash bail conditions that are offered to people cost the defendant money. They all cost money. And one of the reasons that the DC system has been so successful, astonishingly enough, you will be amazed to learn, is because the federal government funds it to a very high level. There are tremendous services for people who are charged with crimes or coming out on probation and parole, and that's how people stay out of jail. In Philadelphia, that is one of the biggest stumbling blocks, is, first of all, how come you're paying for all these court functions? And secondly, what can we offer you to keep you out of jail if you got into jail in the first place? And there are a lot of people who are charged with crimes for reasons that don't have a lot to do with the crime they committed. But your question is a good one. What do we do about situations where people have to pay for their own punishment?
So thank you. Oh, wait, Nick, don't leave. Do you want to do one more closing song? I mean, your voice is just like so spectacular, and we don't have you very often. You have an idea? Yeah? You could do anything at all. It's like, you could like, you know.
That's fine.
Yeah, oh, good.
This is kind of just a power class. It's one of our main songs that we sing often. Many of you probably already know it. Just sing it together. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound. Y'all got it now? Where I'm bound. Come on. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There is freedom in that land. There is freedom in that land. There is freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There is freedom in that land. There is freedom in that land. There is freedom in that land where I'm bound.
Thank you. Amen. So thank you all. Thank you, Terrence Williams, for coming out. Thank you, Reverend Nick. Thank you, Sheila and Laura and Gail. Any of you, they're all taller than I am. Any of you who are at all interested in cash bail, Live Free is involved and moving, and it's been exciting to think about being a part of a group in an issue where we can actually make a difference, you know?
And there's a great handout out on the table.
And there's a great handout out on the table that you should make sure at the end of today that you take. So thank you all for being here and being a part of this. And Sheila, thank you for dressing for Yom Kippur. You knew. It's like good Catholic girl. Look at you. It's very impressive. So in about a minute or two, we will be starting the Ne'ilah service. Ne'ilah is our closing service for the day. So to get grounded, to get in place, to get comfortable, and